Welcome to the Aledo Bearcats Coaches Show Podcast, a presentation of Real Country 92.1 Hank FM and NTXVarsitySports.com. Live from Parker County Brewing Company in Willow Park. The Aledo Bearcats Coaches Show Podcast is brought to you by H5 Sports Barn in Aledo and Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth. And now, here's the voice of the Bearcats, Kevin Lonnquist.
Second down and call it 11 for Lancaster. Boy, it would be a great time for Aledo's defense to collect its first turnover of the season, would it not?
Yeah, it'd be pretty opportune, in this, especially in this part of the field.
Maybe if we try to speak it into existence. How about that? Let's try that. Second down and 11 coming up for Lancaster at its 31-yard line. Hairston roll to his right, being chased now. Will throw it up in the air, and it's going to be intercepted. What did I just say, Lamel Swanson?
And we welcome you to the Aledo Coaches Show Podcast. I'm Mr. Clairvoyant Kevin Lonnquist. Do you like that, by the way? I mean, that was so weird how that happened.
Yeah, call those more often.
I will. And so, but we welcome you to our new podcast home, which is Parker County Brewing Company. Every podcast from this location throughout the 2025-26 school year for Aledo Athletics will be here. Also want to thank our two main sponsors between H5 Sports Barn in Aledo and Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth. We always appreciate their support of the podcast and Aledo Athletics. H5 is in its third year supporting us. Hiley Mazda is in its second and maybe a third sponsor to join this podcast. We'll see about that. And the number one Aledo Bearcats are now 2-0 following the 18-0 win at Lancaster last Friday, and the Bearcats sweep the home-and-home series from the Tigers. They won the first game in 2024 at Tim Buchanan Stadium, 37-27. So that means the non-district season is over, and the District 3-5A season begins. And yes, the talk of the national record district winning streak of 127 resumes. Much to all of us saying, there it is. But as far as the Bearcats are concerned, they need to be 1-0 after Friday's home district opener against the Brewer Bears. As for Brewer, it is off to a 2-0 start and has a new head coach. More about that in just a little bit. As always, we have two segments in this podcast. We'll start with Aledo head coach Robby Jones and a review of the win over Lancaster and, of course, a look ahead to Friday. And in our second, we'll be joined by two seniors, offensive tackle Payton Williams and defensive end Cooper Cyphers. One last note, again, the Bearcats and Brewer Bears. That'll be a 7 o'clock kickoff at Tim Buchanan Stadium on Friday. Pre-game show on 92.1 Hank FM will begin at 6:30 with yours truly, Kyle Hicks, Mercedes Meyer, and the Deacon. All right, Coach, this is a results industry, and the idea is to have more than the other guy. And so mission accomplished in what was a low-scoring shutout win on the road. What was your overall takeaway from looking at the film on Saturday with your players and with your staff?
Yeah, great job by our defense, of course, getting the shutout, getting a couple of turnovers. Offensively, we kind of shot ourselves in the foot a couple of times. We had a big play and had a holding penalty, got it called back, which resulted in that drive stalling out. So, we've got to cut out all those mistakes. We're not, in sync right now offensively like we would like to be, and then we just compound that with some penalties and some turnovers, and we got to cut those things out.
Sure. I know with you being an offensive coach, I would imagine you have to be a little bit more patient and just continue to work with your guys, note the improvements, and then just try and build on it too. And because it's obviously, I'm sure there's obviously some frustration because you're so used to having big yardage numbers, big offensive plays, that sort of thing, and you just kind of have to nickel and dime your way, but it's been effective enough because your team has been able to get 2 W's, and that's what it's all about.
Right, and we're just barely missing on some of those big opportunities. So, we're telling the kids, hey, look, we can't panic. We just got to keep working, keep doing what we're doing, keep working on the same plays that we've been working on. Of course, each week we'll add, little wrinkles here and there to take advantage of what we think we can with the other team's defense. So, we just got to continue, to work on those things, and then, the big plays are going to come.
Yeah. To me, and speaking of the big plays, I thought there were some things in the passing game that were there on Friday night. The one that you just mentioned a few moments ago, that was the deep shot to Bain Martin that went for 51 yards. That was called back, unfortunately, because of the holding penalty. But then there was the great third down throw to Caden Finley from Lincoln Tubbs. Great execution on the touchdown pass from Nash McElry to Bain Martin as he was crossing over. So where do you think the passing game is at? Because we've seen it there. There were also a couple of shots that were right there, just didn't connect on that. But it seems like it made a big step from the opener to last week.
Yeah, we made some improvements, and that was one of our focuses going into the game, was to try to show some improvement in the passing game because, like I said last time, we've got some really talented receivers, and we got to find ways of getting them the ball, and that's going to be another focus this week. We got to keep the run game going, but also, we got to start showing improvements in the passing game.
I think the one thing that maybe people don't talk about or maybe are overlooking is the fact that your offense, while it may be doing this and that, it is opportunistic, because we talked about in the opener when the defense made 2 big stands, you guys immediately took it down and scored. And then the 2 turnovers last week against Lancaster, you guys get 11 points out of it. The touchdown right before the end of the first half, and then you all get the field goal later on in the fourth quarter. And so, and then I would also say, too, that just the fundamentals of this team, and I want to go talk to you specifically about the execution, the perfect execution on the fire drill, on the first extra point try, where Holder, Kane Lanier, very calm, and then finds Caden Weaver, who's kind of trailing with him on that, and flips it to him. And so, I mean, that's why you practice it. So those are the fundamentals, and those are the things that you can share with your team and say, this is why we keep working, because when it's called upon, we can execute this.
I mean, that's exactly. We work on that. Every time we're working on field goal extra point, you throw in the fire drill, and so, it's something that our kids know how to do, and whenever, we don't like to have a snap where we have to call the fire drill, but when we do, our kids know what they're supposed to do.
How much do you all practice that in a week?
I mean, it's at least 3 or 4 times a week.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. And then having said all that, then your running game, Brady Powell had the 100-yard rushing day. And so while yards were hard to come by both teams, it seemed, though, toward the end, especially in the fourth quarter, that you all were getting some success kind of wearing them down. That was a really good tackling team that Lancaster had. But the way you guys just kind of committed to it and stuck with it, you did get your holes there, and that's how Brady was able to be effective. He was your most effective runner on Friday night.
I think that was basically we kind of wore them down a little bit, which, shows the conditioning and the work that our kids had put in throughout the summer leading into the season. So we were able to, like you said, we kind of wore them down a little bit, and that's why we started seeing a little bit more success, towards the end of the game.
I'm bearing the lead of this team, and that's, of course, the defense. And you said after the Denton-Geyer game, you thought that the Wildcats scored their 2 touchdowns because of missed tackles. Well, obviously it seemed like on Friday night you guys made all of them. Just what did you even see? As good as the defense was on the first game against Geyer, how much better do you think it was against Lancaster? Because of the speed and athleticism.
We had to keep those guys bottled up, and we did a really good job of that. We didn't allow the big, huge chunk run plays. The big run plays that they did get were off some influence type plays where, they influenced our, D-line linebackers one way and they're taking off and going the other way. Sorry. We like to take care of that, but we also did a really good job in the pass game because they had some really fast receivers, and that's where they were able to get some big yards, the week before. So I give a lot of credit to our secondary. We've got 2 experienced safeties. Each one of them had an interception, but then those 2 corners. I always like to refer to them as the young corners because that's what they were last year.
Right.
They were a freshman and a sophomore that were backing up those 2 seniors. But, those guys have played really, really well, and we're looking forward to, more games like that out of them.
Sure. I know you felt good about this defense coming into the season, but you've done this against 2 Class 6A traditional playoff teams. Anything better than what you and defensive coordinator Brad McCone were anticipating because of what has been kind of the story here that we've seen through these first 2 games?
No, you can't get much better than a shutout, so that's the goal every time the defense goes out there, and they were fighting hard that last series, when we had some backups out there and Lancaster was actually moving the ball a little bit on us. But we got that incomplete pass on the last play of the game, and that guy was out of bounds, so it worked out for us.
Clock was kind of mysterious there at the end too, as we all kind of found out there. So, but anyway, okay. So the Deacon took some time to put together some of these defensive numbers here, where the opponents in these first 2 games, again, Denton-Geyer and Lancaster, 22 total possessions. This has been the result of this so far. Only twice has the opponent scored on those possessions. And the turnovers between turnovers forced or turnovers on downs, there have been 6 of those. They also missed a field goal. That was the one that was blocked by Alex Payton. And then 11 of those possessions were turned into punts. Okay, so when you hear those numbers, what does that mean to you in the fact that neither of those teams even got near 200 yards of total offense and had to punt half the time? I mean, you couldn't ask for a better script if you wanted to draw it up like that.
No, I mean, you'd like to have that every game, and that's not going to happen every game this year, but we do have the capabilities to go out and shut an opponent down. And right now, it's great that our defense is able to do that because, we have mentioned, we have some struggles offensively right now. But those struggles are going to go away eventually. We're going to find our groove offensively, and we're going to get on a roll offensively, and we're going to start putting points on the board like we're used to.
Now, I want to speak to what's been going on to Geyer and Lancaster in games when they did not play Aledo because this is such a week-to-week sport. But listen to this. Geyer had 2 100-yard rushers, collected more than 400 yards, and scored 41 points last Friday against Arlington Martin. Now, maybe the Warriors aren't the Warriors of what we've seen in past previous 6A seasons, but it's still a 6A quality program. Now, before you all played Lancaster, of course, the Tigers did not have a lot of yards, but they scored 18 points against the reigning 6A Division I champions in North Crowley, and they led that game midway through the fourth quarter. I mean, the proof is in the pudding there, and that's about your kids putting in the work too when you see that kind of thing. And then when you hear what they've done either prior to playing you or after when they played you.
Yeah, I mean, it's showing that, we can play with the top, teams in 6A, which, I feel like Geyer's one of the top teams in 6A, and Lancaster's going to be a playoff team more than likely, and then they've also played high-quality opponents as well besides us. And so it just shows you that, when we make the jump to 6A, we're going to be able to compete. We may not win every game like we try to do, but we're going to be able to compete with the 6As when we jump up there.
And what you're doing right now is kind of a little bit of a mix and match with your defensive line, especially at one defensive end spot. Carson Dempsey not available. His replacement, Max Foreman, who played great in the opener, but he has a bit of an injury issue. Probably not going to play this week, but it's been that next man up mentality. Your guys are meeting the challenge. Just talk about, for the listeners, some of the changes and other kids that have stepped up and filled those gaps. And then you also made a roster move. You brought a kid up from the JV on your team.
Yeah, so we went with Kason Miller, who's a senior, right off the bat, last week, to give him a chance to be, getting a lot of play time there at that spot. And then we also rolled in Ethan Marchlinsky. And Kason actually got a little bit of an injury during the game as well. So Marchlinsky got, the majority of the snaps there. I think he actually got a sack. And like I said last week, I mentioned to Ethan, I said, well, hey, we don't have a problem with Ethan going out there and playing.
Right.
We've got some depth there. Now the problem is, we're missing 3 of the guys that we started the year with at defensive end. So we did have to pull up Trip McKinnon from the JV, who's another junior who, it just happened to be the fact that, we had so many guys that were already there. Who was playing JV. So it's not like, we're bringing up somebody that's not a varsity caliber player. He is a varsity caliber player. And so he's going to get some opportunities this week.
All right, so before we get into Brewer, we're 2 weeks now into this new rule in high school football about the 2-minute timeout, which comes at the end of the second quarter and at the end of the fourth quarter. And so early thoughts about what you think of it. Have you been able to develop a strategy with it? Is it too early to know, or does it give a team a chance to reset? What's your early impressions of what this means to a game and strategy, that sort of thing?
The first half, it allowed us not to have to use one of our timeouts. That part of it's going to allow offenses that are trying to score late in the game, to have that extra timeout. Now, I haven't gotten totally used to it because, when they stop the clock there in the second half, I'm like, why are y'all stopping the clock? So, it's just something, we got to get used to. It's not something that we've been doing for years. So, we also had to readjust our can we run the clock out sheet, because, you're adding an extra timeout in there now.
Sure.
So, so we've had to adjust some things. We just got to get used to it.
Yeah, I was going to say, and really at the end of your game, against Geyer. That's where I think you made your stop right just like at 155. Now that didn't impact the two. I think you were coming out of the 2-minute timeout at that time, at that point. But I'm curious as to if you had made that stop at, let's say, the 202 or 201 mark, or whatever that is. How do you think that could have changed how you all needed? Because all you needed was 3 kneel downs.
Right. So we would have to look at the chart and see if how many timeouts they had, knowing they were going to get this stoppage right after the 2-minute play. So we would have to look at the chart and see if we were able to kneel it or if we had to try to go get a first down.
Okay. All right. So on to Brewer again. The Bears are 2-0. They have wins over Saginaw. That was 33-9, and then beat Lake Dallas last week, 14-10. Their new head coach is Marty Amright, who is also an Aledo graduate, played for Tim Buchanan back in the mid-1990s, so a bit of a homecoming for him. How well do you know him?
I know him. Don't know him, all that well. He coached over in Brock for a little while with my buddy Chad Worrell, and so I kind of got to know him a little bit there. And then he's also been around a little bit. I know him. It's not like we've hung out a whole lot or anything like
right.
that. But no, he's a really good guy. Of course, he's an Aledo guy. So he's a quality person, and he's doing a really good job over there. You can tell, they're coaching those kids hard, and they're doing a pretty good job of getting lined up and doing what they do well. Which right now they've got a big, huge offensive line, and they've got a running back that was the district offensive newcomer of the year last year, and they're feeding him the ball, and they're running the ball and chewing up some clock. And then they're also playing some pretty good defense over there as well.
All right, we'll get to them here as we go along. In fact, just to let everybody know that Amrine was at Maypearl for the previous 2 years, had a couple of 7-win seasons, got those teams to the playoffs before he had the opportunity at Brewer. Because, okay, you kind of mentioned this before, but anything else on film about the Bears that looks different? You talked about them lining up, but anything else you see?
Yeah, they moved some kids around, kids that were returning starters for them last year. Like their right tackle was the first-team All-District fullback last year. He has grown a little bit. He's 6'4", I can't remember, 235, something like that. And so they moved him from fullback to offensive line. They had another kid that started for them at receiver. That's their starting corner this year. They also got a kid that moved back to them with it's a really good player. Started for them as a freshman.
Okay.
I think his last name's Foster. But he was at Fossil Ridge last year. He intercepted a pass on us last year.
Oh, okay.
At Fossil Ridge. So.
Oh, I do remember that. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they've got some talented kids over there as well as the big, huge offensive linemen that I've already mentioned, and then their defensive line. I think is playing really well right now as well.
Okay. They're getting a feel for their offense. They're leaning on their quarterback, Colton Riles, who was the backup last year. He did play a little bit against you guys last year, and we saw him. So what's different about him? They're not asking him to throw it a lot, but they're just it sounds like he's kind of a game manager for them.
That's exactly what they're doing with him. He's a game manager, and he'll throw it every now and then. They haven't. When I was breaking down their video, I didn't see just a whole lot of different pass plays. So. They're leaning heavy on that run game, and when you got a big offensive line and a good running back, that's what teams are going to do a lot of times.
Okay, and then you mentioned their running back, Cameron Coleman there. He has 260 yards rushing. He has scored 5 touchdowns. The challenge that he's going to present to you on Friday.
Yeah, we just got to do like we have the last 2 weeks. We got to keep their run game, from being successful. And they're going to do a lot more of it than what we've seen the last 2 weeks. The last 2 teams have tried to throw the ball. Haven't had a whole lot of success, against us throwing the football. But, we just got to make sure that we play gap assignment defense and take care of the run.
All right. And then finally about the Bears, their defense, kind of like yours. They've allowed only 19 points in these first 2 games. Looks like their linebackers are very active. At least that's what the tackle numbers look like. The team has 8 sacks. And so what's going to be the thing that you have to look for when it comes to them?
Yeah, we got to know where number 6 is. Last name's Wash. I can't remember his first name, but he was an inside linebacker for them last year. Now they've gone to a 3-4 defense. He plays the short side of the field, outside backer, and he stunts a lot. So he's kind of their stunner, and he disrupts some things in the passing game. So we got to know where he is. Realize that he's the main guy that's going to be stunting.
All right, and then finally, I'm going to bring it up just because of the district winning streak of 127. Do you guys even talk about it anymore unless somebody brings it up to you, kind of like what I'm doing now? Or how do you guys even treat something like this?
Yeah, we don't really talk about it. Like, I didn't even know it was 127 until you just said it. So, so it's not something that we talk about. Now we know there's a streak out there, but what that number is, we don't talk about it. We just, our main focus is to win each week. So we're not winning because of the streak. We're winning because this is the only game we have this week.
It's kind of like the Brewer season, and then next week is the Birdville season, and then the week after that is the Fossil Ridge season, that sort of thing.
We're just focused on one game at a time.
All right. Well, Coach, have a great week of work, and we'll look forward to seeing the Bearcats finally with a 7 o'clock start. That will mean a lot for everybody to at least get home at a reasonable hour. By the way, what time did you guys get back on Friday night or Saturday morning?
Man, I don't even know. I didn't even look at my watch.
But it was a late night for all of us.
It was. I'm going to say I didn't get home until about 1 a.m. So,
oh, jeez. Yeah. Okay, I understand. All right, Coach, again, congratulations on getting off to the 2-0 start, and we will talk to you on Friday night.
All right, appreciate it. Thanks.
All right. We do want to remind you that this podcast is brought to you by H5 Sports Barn. H5 Sports Barn and Knife Physio and Performance can help unlock your athletic potential and elevate your game like the Aledo Bearcats. With expert sports physical therapy, tailored recovery plans, and top-notch sports performance training, H5 Sports Barn, proud supporters of the Aledo Bearcats. Then by Hiley Mazda. Head to Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth today. Their new state-of-the-art facility is conveniently located just off of I-30. Exit Las Vegas Trail and experience top-notch service and hassle-free buying. Don't forget to ask about this month's special offers. Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth, family-owned and operated for more than 30 years. Stick around. Payton Williams and Cooper Cyphers join us next. You're listening to the Aledo Coaches Show podcast, back after this timeout.
Bearcats have it at the 21-yard line. They give us to Brady Powell, breaking into the clear to the 10, to the 5, breaks a tackle at the ankle at the 4, and he scores. Touchdown, Aledo Bearcats.
And that was the final score for the Bearcats as they salted away the 18-0 victory over the Lancaster Tigers. We welcome you back to the Aledo Coaches Show podcast. I'm Kevin Lonnquist here at Parker County Brewing Company. Before we get to Payton Williams and Cooper Cyphers, a couple of Aledo recruitable notables for you. These are guys that are playing Division I college football right now. Devon Keys, the linebacker who was at LSU. Through the first 2 games of the season, that's between Clemson and La Tech. He has 11 tackles, and the number 3 Tigers are 2-0 and home to the Florida Gators Saturday night in Death Valley. As for Jaden Allen, the defensive back who is now at the University of Arkansas, he's slowly making his way back from a knee injury that sidelined him for most of the 2024 season, well, actually all of it, where he actually redshirted. But to his credit, he was an all-SEC academic honor roll member. He saw his first action in the season opener a couple weeks ago against Alabama A&M, collected a tackle, and the number 2 Razorbacks will be playing at number 17, Ole Miss, on Saturday. Okay, time to be joined now by Payton Williams, the senior offensive lineman to my immediate left, and Cooper Cyphers, the senior defensive end to my far left. Guys, thanks for being with us today. All right, so let's talk about the Lancaster game, the shutout, big plays, big stops, just enough offense. Payton, you're mixing it up there with a pretty physical team there too, and every yard was hard to come by. What was it like on Friday?
It was a real tough game. I think a big deal of it was communication. I think the plays that you see blown up was due to miscommunication, but the plays that you saw that were real explosive, got us lots of yards, got us like those physical, like that momentum into the game, were really off of communication, and especially whenever we're running tempo, getting up to the line, making our calls, and making sure everybody knows what they're doing. And when everyone knows what they're doing, we're going to execute.
I want to ask you a little bit about Cooper as far as the defensive side of things was concerned. That's a very physical group here on that side. They were trying to get, they have 2 really talented running backs there in Isaiah Lee and Victor Scott. What was the challenge about facing that, knowing how talented those running backs were?
Keep them from getting outside. We were trying to force them in the middle, just send people up in the middle and stop them. And we did that. I mean, zero points. Yep,
absolutely. I mean, when you guys, what is the personal pride when you are walking off the field after you've thrown a shutout?
It feels great just looking up on the scoreboard and 0.
All right. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the momentum of this being your senior years. I've talked to other guys that have been on this podcast about
seen other seniors that have gone through that year, and now it's your turn. The urgency, the finality, everything that you do, like it's the last first game of the season I'm going to play. This is going to be the last first district game that you're going to play on Friday night against Brewer. What does that mean to you? How different is this season now for you than it was maybe playing a couple years ago? And I'll start with you on this, Payton.
I think the biggest deal is like you really feel a different pressure. I remember last year, I feel like our pressure to win state was we wanted to be the first class to 4-peat. You know what I mean? And then now this year, it's like we're the class that has to bounce back. So you really feel the weight of your class on you, and it's a legacy deal. You know what I mean? That whatever happens to your class is going to follow you. We don't want to be the class that doesn't make it after not making it again. You know what I mean? We have to win 3, and I think that's a huge pressure, and I think it makes you go out there every week and come the most prepared that you can.
Okay. And then what about for you, Cooper? What's this feeling like of going through this as a senior as opposed to what it was like in previous years when you knew you still had some time to play varsity ball in front of you?
Yes, sir. It's kind of crazy that this last year, this is it. And, just got to make every second count, trying to go out, get state.
All right, so let's get into your recruiting situation here for both of you. Both of you are making decisions. One of you actually has. Payton, we'll start with you. Your decision to commit to UT San Antonio. What led to that? Was it as simple as playing along with your brother DJ, or what was kind of that led to that whole situation? Because it's a great opportunity. I mean, they're a solid G5 program. They're in the American Athletic Conference, and so they've had some really good years there too.
I think, whenever it came to my brother, that was always going to be the cherry on top with them. You know what I mean? It was never a deciding factor until it became one. And I think the biggest deal was just opportunity. And obviously with the portal, you never know how long you're going to stay at a place, but that was the one I felt most comfortable that I could stay there for as long as I needed to and develop and get on the field. And I think as well as opportunity, was pretty even kill throughout all of them, and I was going to have the opportunity to play at either place. The biggest deal was the fact that I could stay there, and I know that I can just prolong a career there and build something there, and I think that was the biggest deal with those.
And it seems like things that I've read about UTSA is that they've really committed a lot of money to facilities, upgrading their current facilities. Talk about that a little bit.
Yes, sir. And honestly, I think that's a big deal is for all campuses now is building great facilities. And one thing that they've really done is picked up their nutrition as well. And that was a thing that I really like is because there's certain weights that I like to play at certain times and at certain positions. So I think a really good deal of that is whenever your strength and training and your nutrition is that good, you can decide when, at what weight you want to play and how you want to play. And I think that was a big deal. They
look at you as a tackler. How do they see you?
They play the best 5. So, I mean, if I am that fast, I hope I am that fast to play tackle, but I can play tackle, center, guard. That's been a big deal in my recruiting is the fact that I can play all 5, and I will continue to prove that I can.
All right. Cooper, for you, I know you've got a couple of offers. We'll just list off a couple: Sacramento State and, of course, Colorado State. What's it been like just evaluating these opportunities and deciding, because you've still got a little more time on your hands, but this part of the process, where are you at just trying to evaluate everything with everything kind of on hold, too, with the season underway?
Yeah, I'm just really trying to finish the season out and then make decision after the season and see what else I get throughout the season.
All right. Is it something that you still want to see where your film, what you can do with your film, and maybe your senior film can catch somebody else's attention? Maybe it's a Tulsa, maybe it's an Arkansas State. I'm arbitrarily throwing these schools out there, so don't hold me to it. But something like that. Is that something where you're hoping that has there been a school like that is kind of circling and they want to see more film before they make a decision? Do you know of any schools that are doing that?
Yes, sir. A lot of them want to see my first 3 games, so I got to finish out this next game and then send in my first 3 games and then see where that takes me.
Okay, so Mom and Dad have already been starting to put all the clips together and that sort of thing. We've got the edit machine working and all that stuff. Is that right?
Yes,
okay.
Sir.
All right. Is it crazy to try and diagnose all this stuff, to try and put all this information together and realize that, or is it something that once the season ends, and obviously for you guys, you hope it's that Saturday before Christmas, but as you are going through this, what's it been like just trying to understand the process and what's going to be a fit and what's not going to be a fit?
Yeah, I'm really just trying to not stress out about it, just have fun my senior year, and then worry about all that after.
All right, so let's talk real quickly about your defense. Of course, you heard me talk about the numbers from Coach, the opposition with 22 total possessions between Geyer and Lancaster. 11 of those have been punts. Only 2 of those have been scores, and I know you guys take that kind of personally here. But the fact that you guys have shut out and shut down 2 6A programs that were in the playoffs last year. Lancaster went 2 rounds, Geyer went 4 rounds. What does that tell you about what this group is capable of doing?
Our defense is really good. I mean, we have
That's the understatement of the year.
yeah, we're a really good group. I mean, we played with each other for 2-3 years, and I mean, we got good chemistry. Practice, double whistle, that's bad, but it gets us ready for the game. All
right, got you on that. Payton, let's talk to you a little bit about this offense. Of course, this is not the Aledo offense that we've been used to seeing in previous years, but some noticeable changes in the game against Lancaster. Passing game had some bright spots. Running game really started to establish itself and really took control in the fourth quarter. What have you seen in these first 2 weeks in terms of just kind of getting there slowly but surely? But, of course, it's all about getting W's, which you all have.
I think a big deal about it is progression. Because this year at least, I like to refer back to my freshman year. You know what I mean? I didn't even get to play on varsity until playoffs that year, but I noticed how it was a Swiss Army knife type of year. You know what I mean? We used everybody, and everybody got better as the year went on. We lost those first 2 games that year, and we just got better and better and better. And obviously, we came out with the wins this year so far. And I think the biggest deal is progression, like with Lincoln, obviously, at quarterback, and then I think another kid that goes under the radar as well is Cooper Elms at tackle and Amari as well at tackle. I mean, we have a deep O-line room now, and we can rotate guys. We can play guys. We can put guys anywhere in the offense, and I think that's the biggest deal is progressing throughout the year. It's really going to show up when it comes time, like how Haas and Hawk that year did against Longview, and I think that will continue. The ball will continue to roll, and it will get to that point this year.
Sure, and you guys won that game against Longview a couple years ago, 14-7, if memory serves on that, and so that was a state semifinal game. We're also going to recognize Payton as the social media influencer. I want to get into this because he has more than 100,000 followers on TikTok. I want to know how that happened and what caused this to take off like it has. Do you even know?
Well, it's like one of those things where you kind of know it's gonna happen. So it wasn't I'm not gonna sound cocky or anything. I knew that I was gonna go viral. I thought I was gonna get 100K views, maybe. You know what I mean? I thought I was gonna do some good. But the biggest deal was whenever I did the video, it wasn't supposed to be funny. It was supposed to be something hard to watch, something to almost make people mad and be like, "Oh, what is this?" And then it kind of turned into. Everybody loved it. Everyone thought it was funny, and so I just continued to do it, and people really enjoyed seeing that after we win games, just having a goofy humor about it all, just enjoying the high school football experience instead of being so uptight about it all. And I think that was a big deal, just kind of lifted a little bit off.
All right, Cooper, what's the reaction to everybody since this thing has kind of taken on a life of its own from the other guys in the locker room?
Oh, I love it, but all my friends from Keller and everything, they ask me if I know him and everything. I have to
I think you know him, and so.
Yeah, I got to introduce him to him. And they always want pictures and everything.
Golly, okay. Cooper, you've played this game against Brewer the last couple of years, and obviously there is a little bit of a rivalry there with them because these schools are so close. What's the best way for you guys to deal with it leading up to the game? Because I've heard the stories in the past about there's been a lot of social media chatter between, if it's not the teams, it's basically the student body. So how do you guys kind of tune that out and make sure that you focus on these 4 days of work and then playing the game on Friday?
Yeah, just lock in on film and practice hard, and we should be good.
All right. And then, Payton, what about for you guys dealing with, because you've been through this game yourself, and even though they haven't been very competitive here, I mean, this is a Brewer team that looks like it's got a different spirit about it.
Yeah, I mean, they're a competitive team. Obviously they haven't liked us since we were little kids. So I think this year it'll be a little bit different. I think that they're gonna try and give us something that we haven't seen before, but they should know that we're ready for it. You know what I mean?
When you look at them on film, Cooper,
from 2024, what do you think is different about the Bears?
Okay, I actually haven't watched film yet because.
Uh-oh, Coach. Do we have?
But I have a reason. So this morning we had meetings, so we couldn't watch film in the morning.
Right.
After school, we were supposed to watch film, but I had physical therapy on my hamstring, so I couldn't watch film. So I have to watch it in the morning tomorrow.
All right. So but given the fact that you know that they're 2-0, they haven't allowed. Their offense seems has much improved. So obviously, I would think that you guys feel like it's a different team that you're going to be facing than perhaps what you felt like you saw the last couple of years. Then.
Yeah, it is definitely a different team. Their O-line, they're always big and they're always fast. So we got to really lock in.
All right, and then for you, Payton, what do you think is different about that team on defense? Because, again, they've only allowed 19 points through their first 2 games.
I'm going to be honest, I think it's a speed thing. I think they kind of cranked up the speed and intensity just in general. I think that defense coordinator, our coach has been telling us about him and stuff like that. I think he's really getting them to really love football over there again.
All right, that's always the number one thing. Okay, and then finally for you guys, I talked to Coach about this, and, of course, you all are aware of the National District winning streak there that goes back to before you guys were even born. It's 127 games. I know that you guys does anyone even bring it up? Do you guys even talk about it? Is it just so far off the radar that it doesn't matter? I'm asking this as an obligatory question because that's my job. So I'll start with you on this, Cooper.
No, we never really talk about it. We only hear about it like every once in a while.
Kind of like now.
Yeah, like right now. Yeah.
Okay. And then what about for you, Payton?
Yeah, no one really brings it up. It's just one of those things that you don't, like I said, you don't want to be the class to lose it. Mm-hmm. So it's just like whenever it comes a big game like that, you really like hone in on it. But other than that, you don't think about it at all unless someone else brings it up to you.
Okay. Well, guys, we really appreciate your doing this with us on this podcast. So to my immediate left is the senior offensive left tackle, Payton Williams, and to my far left is the senior defensive end, Cooper Cyphers. Folks, let's hear it for these 2 young men. And as we wrap up this podcast, we do want to remind you that we are brought to you by H5 Sports Barn. H5 Sports Barn and Nye Physio and Performance can help unlock your athletic potential and elevate your game like the Aledo Bearcats. With expert sports physical therapy, tailored recovery plans, and top-notch sports performance training, H5 Sports Barn, proud supporters of the Aledo Bearcats. And by Hiley Mazda. Head to Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth today. Their new state-of-the-art facility is conveniently located just off of I-30. Exit Las Vegas Trail and experience top-notch service and hassle-free buying. Don't forget to ask about this month's special offers. Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth, family-owned and operated for more than 30 years. For my engineer, Zach Holmes, and the rest of the Hank FM staff, thanks for being with us here at Parker County Brewing Company. Back at our usual day next week, Monday at 7 o'clock. Have a great week, everybody. I'm Kevin Lonnquist. So long for the Aledo Coaches Show podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Aledo Coaches Show podcast, brought to you by H5 Sports Barn in Aledo and Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth. With the voice of the Bearcats, Kevin Lonnquist. Please like and subscribe to this podcast and tell a friend. You're also welcome to join us every Monday night at 7 from Parker County Brewing Company in Willow Park. It's the Aledo Coaches Show podcast, a presentation of Real Country 92.1, Hank FM, and NTXVarsitySports.com.